We are here. It is the breaking point. In this episode, two juggernauts battle head to head. Who will win, Summerslam or Takeover? Alright, I think I'm overemphasizing. I'm going a little too heavy into that. But seriously, it's a good question. Which pay-per-view was better? We just got off of a packed weekend for wrestling fans. I mean, you had Saturday's Takeover, and then immediately following on that Sunday, we have SummerSlam, and it leads into a nice little topic here of which pay-per-view was better. Leave into the comments what you preferred, and I'm going to tell you what I liked better. And to be honest, and I know this sounds very fanboy, this is very, oh my god, you're a smart. I enjoyed Takeover better, and I have, my reasons why, which I will tell you. To be honest, I felt that Takeover was a much more well-built, well-packaged pay-per-view overall. I felt they did a lot. See, when I judge a show, I don't judge it solely based on entertainment value. That is a huge part of it, and that's important, but I look deeper. I look at how how many storylines how much did they further their storylines? How many superstars did they build? I look at it from a standpoint of, how is this product, gonna look in the future? Is this, did this show really do a great job at projecting the brand, at really pushing the brand to the next level? And to be honest, Takeover hit every one of my check marks. It really was a solid show from start to finish. They did a lot of great things. Not every match was perfect, but they really did some great stuff. I cannot say the same about SummerSlam, so that is why my opinion is that Takeover was a much, much better pay-per-view overall. SummerSlam was good. It had its good moments, but it wasn't great, and it should have been. I mean, this is your supposedly main roster brand, even though I know Triple H, consistently says NXT is its own brand. It is the main brand. It's just as good, if not better, than Raw and SmackDown, which I personally agree with. I think it's better than both Raw and SmackDown. I think it's better packaged. I think their superstars and their women on that roster are respected better. I think that if you are a wrestler coming off of the independent circuit, you have a much better chance of furthering your career on NXT than you do on Raw and SmackDown. Unless you're this superstar that they throw a jetpack on. But, I mean, you can say, that may not even last. I mean, look at Kevin Owens. He had a big push going for the longest time, and this guy should easily be in the main event. But, the powers that be, some of them didn't see it that way. I'm looking at you, Kevin Dunn. But I felt like from start to finish, they did a lot of really, really great things in Takeover. To me, the main reason SummerSlam fell short was because none of the matches on that card meant anything. And this goes back to my first episode where I was talking about lack of establishment. And if you haven't watched that episode yet, go check it out. But, when you have Kevin Owens versus a Cesaro, the match itself is great. But at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything in terms of the WWE. On the independent circuit, if you have a great match, you're the man, you're over with the crowd. That means that there are no mid-card main event spots. There's no levels in the independent circuit. I mean, your levels depend on how over with the crowd you are, and that's it. It's a completely different monster, completely different beast coming into the WWE. It's not enough, to just be a great wrestler. And these guys are great at what they do. They're great wrestlers. They're entertaining, and they put on a hell of a show, but that's not enough. And it's not their fault. It's the WWE's fault. After this match, what happened? So, Kevin Owens beats Cesaro. He just beat Cesaro. And it goes back to the lack of establishment. Kevin Owens beats John Cena. The wrestling world explodes because we understand how important that is. There's no importance to him winning this match. It really doesn't mean, on the grand scale, the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really make a difference. And that's pretty much how the entire show went. That's pretty much the entire card was built off of, it doesn't matter. Very meaningless card from start to finish. And then you have John Cena versus Seth Rollins for the WWE World Heavyweight and United States Championship, which that match was also phenomenal. It was a great match. And to be honest, and I've said this before, I'm not anti-John Cena, but I really didn't feel like he really put a whole lot of effort into that match. Maybe he was tired, maybe he was injured. I don't know. I felt like, and maybe he was just allowing Seth Rollins to run the match, because it really did look like Seth Rollins really carried that match and did a phenomenal job. But, the finish of that match just blows my mind. I don't understand the mindset behind having Jon Stewart, of all people, coming in and attacking Cena, which, helps Rollins win. But here you have a guy who desperately needs a win, a clean win on his record, because I don't care if you're a babyface or a heel. If you go your pretty much entire career without really winning anything by yourself, that's not good. Especially when this guy's your WWE World Heavyweight Champion. That's not good. And I was really hoping he needs a clean win, and he didn't get one. He got another, and this time from Jon Stewart. And to me, this was a strictly a PR move. This was completely done for publicity, because they're stuck in the mindset that nobody knows about their business, so they have to get the message out there, which is complete nonsense, because everybody knows about the business. And to be fair, if people don't like wrestling now, they're not going to like wrestling tomorrow. It's just a fact. They're not going to just one day wake up and be like, wrestling's fantastic. Oh my God, I didn't know what I was missing all this time. No, they're going to say, wrestling's stupid, and they're going to move on about their life. But, that match I felt really had a lot of promise, but they really, overall, they could have easily helped build this guy. They didn't build anybody in this match at all. This is one match that really needed to build Rollins' character a little bit. And a victory, even a hard-fought, clean loss would have been better than how they did it, in my opinion. Because right now, he's sitting on a paperweight. That title that Cena helped build for a long time, that they gave him, and now he was building it up. He was doing the open challenge. Now it's a paperweight because of how it was pretty much given to Rollins, because of Jon Stewart, who really has zero affiliation with the WWE, because he's been on Raw once. I mean, he's a fan, but he really hasn't. Up until recently, nobody really knew that too much. Unless you know a lot about Jon Stewart, you really didn't know that. So it really makes no difference. They really didn't do anything to build their storylines in this entire pay-per-view. The only storyline that was kind of built was between two part-timers, and I got nothing against part-timers, and Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar, minus the ending, which was a little bit screwy. I thought it was a great match, but when judging the SummerSlam pay-per-view, I judge it in a way of how is this furthering their superstars on their roster, and how is this furthering their brands. And if I'm going to judge it that way, I got to remove Brock Lesnar versus Undertaker, because they're not really, yes, they're going to sell out seats. Yes, they're going to sell tickets. Yes, it's going to be a great match and make the pay-per-view overall seem decent, but that's not furthering the brand. They're, no superstar on the roster is benefiting from them having this match. The brands aren't really benefiting too much other than financially from this match. So I have to remove them, because they're not long-term superstars. They're only going to have a couple more matches, and then they're both going to go on their way. Undertaker's going to disappear again. And Brock Lesnar's going to go back to wherever he goes, and maybe he'll stay a little longer. I don't know. But for right now, if I'm judging this pay-per-view, I have to take that match out, because it doesn't fit into the realm of, the company as a whole. So removing that match from the equation, which overall I didn't think it was a terrible match at all. I thought it was decent. I had really great points, but got kind of confusing at the end. I don't know where they're going with it. And really, I felt that ending took away from the overall match because people were so focused on that ending, and they're like, what the hell? I'm so confused, which I guess in a sense is good because then it brings them back and they want to watch to figure out what's going on. But, you have this great match, and then you do something like that that's utterly confusing, and people aren't like, whoa, that was cool, I wonder what's going on. They're just like, what? That was stupid. I'm so confused. I have no idea why they did that. And now nobody's even talking about the match anymore. To me, that's a problem. But Seth Rollins versus John Cena, they, once again, they hand Seth Rollins a match. He doesn't win it, so he really has no credibility. He, once again, goes unestablished as a WWE World Heavyweight Champion, which still blows my mind. How can you have a champion that's that unestablished? It just doesn't make sense. And not only that, but now they're going to give him another title that they gave to Cena in order to build. They're going to completely ruin that build by giving it back to Seth Rollins, who has no credibility as a champion. So now whoever beats him for that title, it's not going to make a difference because he hasn't beaten anybody worth beating. So now it's like, okay, so you just beat Seth Rollins. He's not that important. I mean, he's got a title around his waist, but that's the only thing keeping him afloat right now. The WWE World Heavyweight Championship is a flotation device right now for Seth Rollins. He's staying alive because of that and his in-ring ability. But other than that, he's got nothing to go on. So you give him this title because of Jon Stewart? I would have been slightly more okay with this if it were someone who was actually on the roster. That way they can build something off of this. But Jon Stewart's not going to be there every week. There's no point. I mean, this is strictly points they're going to try, I think, but I mean, he's not going to be there, so they're going to have to, I don't know what they're doing with this. Seems like strictly a PR move. They're trying to get their name out there. I don't know, it just mind-boggling. Kevin Owens versus Cesaro, meaningless, pointless. Intercontinental Championship match, meaningless, pointless. I mean, that match itself I didn't think was that great, but again, meaningless and pointless. All of the rest of the matches on the card, other than John Cena versus Seth Rollins, was meaningless because none of these guys are established. The Divas match. After you come off of a Divas match like you got on Takeover, you have to top that, and they didn't even come close. And these are women, and some of these women were actually there. They were at Takeover. These women can wrestle. Maybe somewhere in the future I'll talk about, the Divas division and, the contrast between what they were doing in NXT and what's going on in the main roster, and I don't blame them at all. I blame the WWE for what's going on. They're not getting enough time. They're rushing. I'll save that for another podcast, but the point I'm trying to drive at is none of these matches had any meaning. None of these women, none of these men are established. Cena versus Rollins was the only match that actually had meaning, and they ruined it by the finish because they took a meaningful match and they made it meaningless by adding in a guy who, not that he doesn't belong there, but it just doesn't make any sense. If anything, he would attack Rollins. Why is he attacking Cena? That doesn't make sense, and they're not following through on it. I mean, he gives him he gives him the chair shot, and it just, I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand where they're going to go with this. It doesn't seem like they're going anywhere with it, but that out of the equation, maybe they do something with Jon Stewart, but that being out of the equation, what are they going to do with Seth Rollins? Because now he's even less credible than he was going in there. I mean, with us hardcore fans, we're like, wow, that was an incredible match. That frog splash, amazing. But after that, I mean, it kind of starts to wear thin after a while. Like, yes, we get it. This guy's a great wrestler. I want to see more out of him in terms of character, in terms of storyline, not just his in-ring. We get it. He's great. I love watching him, but I want more, especially in the WWE. And we didn't get that. It was very disappointing. I mean, I think they made terrible decisions. They didn't further really any storyline significantly. They didn't build any characters, and that's the stark contrast between that and Takeover. I mean, what do you do with Cesaro now that he was over for a while? I mean, do you just continue putting him in more meaningless matches after if you do put him against Cena? Is that going to make a difference? Because after Cena, who's left to fight? Everything after that's meaningless again. So what do you do? You've kind of backed yourself into a corner there. I mean, you look at Takeover, and multiple talents got established. Every talent on that card, at least one of them got established. They got put over really well. Multiple storylines got furthered. I mean, they introduced a great new young talent in Uha Nation, a.k.a. What's his name? Apollo Crews. I mean, that man, he's a phenomenal talent. If you're not familiar with him, then definitely go check him out on YouTube. Uha Nation, talented guy, super strong, super athletic. The guy is something to look out for. And they put him over beautifully. I mean, not only was there great wrestling on this pay-per-view, but there was great in-ring storytelling at the same exact time. And that women's match was phenomenal. I mean, they were able to put another notch in the women's division belt. There was great high-risk spots. It didn't feel repetitive. Like, it wasn't a spot fest. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of these pay-per-views, it's just big spot after big spot after big spot. And, I mean, those are great. But I want more. I don't want just high spots. I want intelligent wrestling. I want a great storytelling match. I don't just want these high spots that are high risk. Oh my goodness. I mean, those are great, and they were able to balance it perfectly at Takeover. They didn't balance it at all at SummerSlam. All we got was heavy. It was a spot fest, like I said, heavy spots. The entire show just felt far more meaningful. I mean, they were able to put over young talent, like I said. They were able to really put over the women's division once again, and there so many storylines got established. Finn Balor got put over thanks to Kevin Owens. I mean, you can just sense the difference between Kevin Owens. It's almost like a different universe. Kevin Owens down at NXT versus Kevin Owens on the main roster. You can just sense a difference. That this guy is respected in NXT. Then you put him on the main roster, and he's just a mid-carder. You know what I mean? This guy's the main event in NXT, but he's nothing more than mid-card on the main roster. It doesn't make sense to me. And you can just tell the complete difference. I felt like Takeover at its core was so much more meaningful, well packaged, just overall a really well-rounded show. Really did a lot for all of their superstars. And, even the guys that lost still came out looking really, really good on this pay-per-view. They did a great job, very well booked. And I was impressed by the entire show. I mean, that women's match stole the show for me. You can't say that about SummerSlam. That women's match was not horrible, but it wasn't great at all. I mean, in comparison, you can't even compare. And I'm going to be honest, that women's match at Takeover was far better than most of the matches at SummerSlam, even including the guys' matches. But that's just my take. That is my opinion. Takeover Brooklyn wins this battle for me. If you disagree, that's perfectly fine. Let me know in the comments, why do you disagree? And, like I said, give me your reasoning why. I want to know, why you think SummerSlam was better than Takeover. I know I had a buddy that went to SummerSlam, and, he, kind of debated with me a little bit, and he said he liked SummerSlam better, and he was actually able to go to Takeover and SummerSlam and said that SummerSlam was better. But it's kind of a biased opinion because he got to see The Undertaker live, and seeing The Undertaker live, when you've been a fan as long as we have, that kind of does trump Takeover for him. And I get it. I think I would say that SummerSlam would be better if I got to see Taker live. But, from a fan's perspective, going down my checklist, I felt like Takeover was the pay-per-view that really furthered their brand much, much better than SummerSlam did for its brands. You know what time it is. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you join me again tomorrow morning, same time, same place. And as always, consider the point broken.